Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Riverhead Industrial Development Agency to order. It's November 13th, 2023, and the time is 5:04 p.m. And I'd like to note that we have a quorum present for this public meeting. I'd also just simply like to say that this is our first trip in the new environment in terms of screens and mics and so forth, so hopefully we'll figure out who we're talking to and what we're looking at, but although some may differ. But in any event, the first item of business is to consider the proposed agenda, and I just ask...
Make a motion to propose.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So agenda is accepted. And at this point in time, I'd like to, I think I'd like to, how do I want, what's the expression I want to?
Recess this meeting? Recess this meeting?
Recess is the word I was looking for, thank you. I'd like to recess this meeting in order to call a public hearing with respect to River Point Apartments. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:05 p.m. We are here this evening to accept public comment regarding the application for financial assistance of Riverhead Housing LP. I have on file an affidavit certifying the publication of the following notice of public hearing in the November 2nd, 2023 issue of the News Review as the official newspaper of the Riverhead Industrial Development Agency, as so designated by the Board of Directors at its meeting of December 5th, 2022. I make the notice of public hearing and the resolution calling said hearing a part of the record of this proceeding of Riverhead Housing LP. Further, I make a part of the record of this proceeding the affidavit of Tracy Stark James as Executive Director of the Riverhead Industrial Development Agency, attesting to the service of the notice of public hearing in this matter upon the chief fiscal officers of the affected jurisdictions as required by the laws of the state of New York. Would the representatives of Riverhead Housing now step forward and present to the board the application for financial assistance? And please state your name and address for the record.
You want that to be seen?
Yeah, sure.
Good evening.
Other way, Bob.
Are we on here? All right. Good evening. David Pearson, 30 Hudson Yards, New York, New York, 10001.
Hi, everybody. Sam Schoberg, 30 Hudson Yards as well.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It is a beautiful new space and building that you have here. I'm really pleased to be here in front of you today, which will hopefully be the final milestone to bring a tremendous renovation to River Point Apartments. About a year and a half ago, we started discussions with the town of Riverhead on improving the apartment complex. During that time, and based on the feedback we received from the planning department and the police department, we've worked with the current management company to bring about some really positive changes to the property. Most notably around security. We hired a director of security. We added cameras, lighting, and access controls to the property. We upgraded and enhanced our house rules and enhanced enforcement of those. But that was always, sort of a first step towards bringing about a much larger scale renovation to River Point Apartments. Along with that, we're looking to extend the affordability for the current and future residents of the property and really become a much more cohesive part of the vibrant downtown Riverhead community. We're now poised, pending the outcome of this evening's meeting, to close on the financing for the acquisition, extend the affordable protections for the residents, and commence on a $12 million plus renovation for the apartment complex. The renovation will be all encompassing. So we will be upgrading 100% of the units. We'll be enhancing water and energy efficiency throughout the property with all new upgraded mechanicals, appliances, fixtures at the property, replacing all of the windows, the roofs, and really significantly enhancing the building's facades and landscaping to have a much more attractive curb appeal. We worked very closely with the Department of Planning and took in their feedback to get to a place where I think we are going to have a property that's really the town can be proud of, we can be proud of, the residents can be proud of. That's going to look beautiful from the street and also provide a much safer and more vibrant place to live for the current residents. Along with the security enhancements we've made to date, security enhancements will be an integral part of our upcoming renovation as well. So we're going to be adding additional lighting, additional cameras throughout and interior to the buildings, adding access controls to the actual buildings, and we'll certainly be continuing on with our security protocol here. The other things that we're going to do, which I'm excited about for the residents, will be enhancing the community room, play spaces, and adding free Wi-Fi networked throughout the entire property that will be free to the residents. And the plan is to do all of this without any resident displacement. So there will be some short-term temporary relocation while the work on individual residents' units are being handled, which we will help manage and pay for and work with a third-party relocation coordinator to sort of work with individual residents to make sure that there's as little inconvenience as possible during that time. But none of the residents will be displaced permanently. Their rent and their affordability protections that they have under the current Section 8 contract will continue and be extended. So they will not see an increase to their rents, and there will be additional affordability protections afforded to the residents. So I think I'll sort of transition to talk a little bit about sort of where we are today, steps to the closing, and how we're planning to finance the transaction. So we are. Did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just say I had the wonderful opportunity today to spend some time with the residents at the property. We hosted 2 separate resident meetings, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, to let them know of the potential for an upcoming renovation, what that looks like for them. We had a wonderfully engaging conversation, which Dave spoke to, the enhancements of resident services. We're so excited to bring a new updated community room, to bring Wi-Fi. We've already started to partner with some local organizations like Island Harvest, which we engaged in 2023, and we will continue in 2024. That's a group that provides services around food security and also workforce training. And we're looking to add additional nonprofit partnerships. So really, in addition to the physical aspect, some resident service aspects, which will really round out the apartment community.
Thank you, Sam. All right, so the financing for this transaction is going to occur really with 2 primary sources. So an allocation of tax-exempt bonds, which will serve to be the senior loan financing for the property. So those bonds, which will ideally be issued by the Riverhead IDC, or excuse me, LDC, will be in the approximate amount of $31.8 million. Those tax-exempt bonds are essentially sized to the operations of the property, the NOI of the property, to make sure that we achieve a 1.15 debt service coverage ratio. They'll be credit enhanced by Fannie Mae via Wells Fargo as our sort of conduit lender. And those bonds are for a 17-year term, 17-year term, and then with a 35-year amortization, potentially 40-year amortization based on the current capital market conditions and the need to do that. But so we sort of leverage up the senior loan of the property, senior loan financing of the property, so that we have a stable property afterwards and meet the requirements of the Fannie Mae DUS program, which is a 115 debt service coverage. And then as part of the low-income housing tax credit program, which is part of the Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code, as long as at least 50% of your overall project costs are financed with tax-exempt bonds, and you make the appropriate applications to New York State HCR, then you can qualify for low-income housing tax credits. That ensures both long-term affordability, but also provides the benefit through the low-income housing tax credits to help finance the project. Those tax credits, the amount is based on the total project costs, and then a formula within the code, which is essentially that they are meant to cover 30% of the project costs. It was sort of the original genesis of it. We partner with Wells Fargo as our development partner. They come in as a limited partner in our transaction. The low-income housing tax credits are allocated to them, and in turn, they take a stream of low-income housing tax credits over a 10-year period. The credits are actually earned over 15 years, but the IRS allows this sort of accelerated 10-year redemption of the tax credits, so to speak. And they pay upfront during the course of our redevelopment project for that future stream of low-income housing tax credits. So in this case, we'll have just about $20 million of low-income housing tax credit equity provided by Wells Fargo as our development partner in this. So those, along with some developer fee note that we as the developer put in, and some income from the operations of the transaction or of the project during the renovation period, sort of round out our approximately $57.7 million development sources. And then within the development uses are the acquisition costs, the renovation, all the sort of various soft costs and financing costs, and the necessary reserves that are needed to ensure the long-term stability of the project. So we're looking to, we have an allocation of tax-exempt bonds that expires at the end of 2023. So we're, seeking to close on that financing, close on the issuance of those tax-exempt bonds prior to the end of this year, so that we can make sure that we have that allocation of tax-exempt bonds. Though the tax-exempt bonds and the low-income housing tax credits go hand in hand. Without the bonds, you can't get the credits, and without the credits, the deal's not feasible. So that's the overall financing. Maybe I'll pause for questions there.
Mechanical question. How does what's the cash flow dynamic then on the low-income, the LIHT, the low-income housing tax credits? It's the bank advances, say 20, and then the bank's expectation is that they'll receive in return the nominal cash value of the tax credit. Is that how?
Yeah. So
I'm just a little confused as to who's utilizing the credit actually.
Yeah, the credit will be utilized by Wells Fargo.
Okay. Okay.
The credit stream, which with $20 million is approximately $2 million a year of
Right.
tax credits. They don't pay par for those tax credits. They pay 97 cents, which in today's market is actually a phenomenal price. I don't think we would get that today if we were sort of first going out to them today. But
Right.
we engaged with them about a year ago, and that was the market at the time. So they will take essentially $2 million per year of credits will go to Wells Fargo Bank. And they also get a portion of the cash flow, 10% of the surplus cash flow that comes off to the property after the deferred developer note is repaid. So essentially, the deferred developer note is paid back first from surplus cash, and then once that is split, the economics go 90% to the general partner, and then 10% to the tax credit limited partner investor, and then they get 100% of both the tax credits and also the sort of depreciation and interest expense, all the sort of losses that real estate property generates.
Okay. So in many ways, let me reverse the question then. What's the cash flow cost to the project then of those credits? It's the loss of depreciation, that sort of thing.
Yes, I think so. I'm not sure I follow the question.
Well, no, I'm just trying to work out in my mind how that mechanically operates. But I haven't read the code section, and I haven't actually sat down with a piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean,
run it out.
we meaning related is essentially the 0.01% general partner of the project. The Wells Fargo will be the 99.9% limited partner, and those profits and losses follow that that ownership, that P&L ownership. So essentially all of the profits and losses, the losses primarily are through that depreciation, interest expense, and that sort of stuff. All flow to the.
I don't want to dive too deep into the general questions.
I do. When you first presented, we had some discussion about security and updates. How long has a director of security now been in place over at the at Riverpoint?
So that was a direct result of our discussions with the town. The first one happened in February of this year. The director of security was hired pretty shortly thereafter, so I think he's coming up on 9 months of employment now.
So over those 9 months, have you or have the residents seen a difference in safety issues and security issues?
The feedback I've received from my director of security is that it's night and day from when he started. I'm getting the same feedback from my community manager. There are a number of residents who I spoke to at the meetings today, and I believe there are a few in the audience today, and maybe they'll speak, have said that there's been a big change. With the access control has led to a lot of less unwanted traffic, vehicle traffic. The police have much more of a presence. Their residents are being much more vigilant because they believe that they have a voice and they're heard and that there's people watching. Our director of security walks the property multiple times daily. We have also increased our third-party security firm to be there 24/7, who is his eyes and ears, as well as license plate readers and 2 mobile camera units that give live feeds to the PD. So from my perspective and the feedback that I'm getting, and I'm not there every day, has been a tremendous change.
I think that's great. Okay, thank you.
Could I come back to the capital stack for a second?
Yes.
So you've got a first lien position that'll be financed with bonds. The tax credit partner is Wells as a limited partner. Your developer note
Yep.
is paid prior to their participation in that cash flow.
Correct.
And that note does that note include the operations income for the first year? Is that part of it?
So it's about
no balance, or
it's about $3.8 million of a developer note and about $2.2 million of sort of income from operations during the
first year.
renovation period.
yeah? Oh, during the renovation.
Yeah, it's really what is able to be capitalized as a use that sort of coincides with that source of funds.
Okay, and Wells as the tax credit partner, they're eligible for 15 years of credits, but you're allowed to pay them that 15 years in 10 years.
Correct.
And that 10 years is roughly $2 million a year.
Correct.
And then you're done. They relinquish their position.
They don't relinquish their position. They continue to stay in the deal. Typically, they continue to get the other benefits, which is the depreciation and the
Right,
interest
but
expense.
you're vested at that point.
They're
respect to their
essentially
equity.
vested. So when I say they're earned over 15 years, so there's a recapture provision, right?
Okay.
So if we go out of compliance as the owner, the general partner, developer, right, and we either violate our affordability covenants, or there's a handful of things you can do to sort of no longer be in compliance with the affordability protections, the regulatory agreement, then the IRS would come back and say, give us those credits. Even if we're in year 13 and they've already taken their 10 million, they're going to say, well, you only earned,
I see. Okay.
basically 1/15 of those 10, and they come back for a pretty hefty. So we, as the general partner, provide pretty significant guarantees with our corporate balance sheet against those. So we essentially guarantee both anything related to tax credit recapture. There's certain operating deficits that we guarantee during the course of our hold period. So if there's an operating deficit, we're making general partner advances. We guarantee completion of the renovation to them. We also guarantee the completion of renovation to Fannie Mae. So there's a number of big
Covenants.
groups making sure that we do what we're supposed to do. And that's like, you know, the related deep pocket entity is making those. And so those go on our, you know, contingent liability books, and that we have to reserve against, you know, during that period of time. And then after the first 15 years, we're still beholden to the regulatory agreements associated with the low-income housing tax credit program, but there's not necessarily a recapture period. There is, the IRS could come and you know, sue us for specific performance to make sure that we, you know, maintain those.
Okay. Thank you.
It would kind of put us out of business if we stopped doing what we said we were going to do under these various programs, because this is our sort of core business.
Just turning one moment to the comment that no one would be ultimately displaced or lose their residency at the development. In the submissions, there was mentioned a vacancy rate of about 5%. Then there was also some comment, I can't recall where else, to the effect that actually the demand for the units is quite high. Do you actually have a vacancy? I was just trying to understand how you're managing this rehabilitation, refurbishment, if you will, without displacing too many people. And I first thought it was going to be with sort of vacant units would be the prime candidates, and you sort of move people around. But can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. It's going to be a combination of vacant units and actual hotels units. So to the extent that we have vacant units sort of right leading up to closing, we'll sort of hold those offline, turn those units so that they can be turned, I mean, like, you know, upgrade those units so that they're suitable for occupancy, and then create essentially on-site hotel units that residents so the renovation in a resident's household will take between 10 to 14 days. So it's, call it, you know, by the time you have move on either end, 15 days, they'll be out of their unit. And so they'll either be staying in that unit, and we provide packing and, you know, help with moving and all of that stuff for their belongings. And then when their unit's done, they'll go back to their unit. To the extent that we don't have enough units on site for that, then we'll get local hotels, and we'll help with transportation and moving and packing and all that sort of stuff associated with that. So it's a little bit of combination of both. You know, there's always sort of turnover in the normal course of business. We'd love it to be less than 5% all the time, but between, you know, if there's an eviction for some reason, people just move for a variety of reasons. There's always sort of a turnover process, and then because of the regulatory nature of the property, it's a little bit of a longer period between when somebody vacates and somebody moves in, because they have to go through a income qualification process and that sort of stuff. So it's sort of compliance laden and takes a little bit longer of a time. I realized what I didn't really address was the pilot. So I'm happy to talk about the pilot and the shelter rent and how that all sort of interplays with.
Well, we're asking a lot of questions that relate to our thoughts about the pilot.
Okay.
But we may not get there tonight in terms of conclusion about the pilot. But Doug, do you have other questions? Or Lee?
I don't think so right now.
In that case, I'd like to turn it over to the public. Should I do that now?
Yeah, but maybe they could go into the definition of shelter rent and how it plays a role in their
Oh, okay,
pro
that's
forma?
fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
so
Bill?
you know, the shelter rent formula for pilots is really sort of originated out of the New York State private housing finance laws, and throughout the state, this concept of shelter rent, which is really looking at the revenue of the property, the actual revenue of the property each year, subtracting out the utilities, and then multiplying that by 10% is the formula that is sort of used throughout the state for these types of pilots. That does a couple of things. One, primarily it aligns the town or the city or the municipality with the operations of the property. So as rents go up for, either the area median income increases or the contract rents under the project-based Section 8 go up, it aligns that the town or the municipality's revenue from the taxes with that revenue coming from the property.
Okay.
And I think the last thing I'll add is just that without the pilot that we've discussed, the project's probably not feasible. So we have, shouldn't say probably, it's not feasible. So the financing that we have, I mean, the sources and uses is sort of balanced well right now. It's gotten certainly tighter over the last 6 to 9 months as capital markets have changed and interest rates have gone up, but the deal's feasible, it works. The reason that we seek to enter into the pilot is really for long-term certainty, because that's what Fannie Mae as our lender is going to require, right? Because they have to underwrite, for a 17-year term at least for the loan. And so they need to have this long-term certainty around where certain controllable, so to speak, operating costs are going to be. We're going to have, we've had over the last 36 months probably a 80% increase in insurance costs, like maybe some of you had on your homeowners costs, insurance costs. But there's a lot of variability in costs as these projects continue. Over the course of their next 15 to 30 years, there's going to be increased maintenance costs that come about. And so being able to underwrite to certainty around the real estate taxes is really critical for these lenders, Fannie and Freddie, and in this case Fannie, to make sure that they can underwrite to our loan amount. So without that, our loan proceeds probably come down significantly, and then the project, is no longer feasible.
Okay. I understand that. So, no further questions, Doug?
I have one other question. Is on your cover ratio calculation, is that only against the debt service, or does that include the property tax at some?
That
The insurance.
includes the property taxes as an expense.
Okay, and that's
So it's our revenue from rental collection minus a vacancy rate.
Right.
Fannie Mae underwrites to 5%, and then all of our operating expenses from admin to payroll to
right, insurance, everything.
insurance, real estate taxes.
But is that in this for the purpose of achieving 115 to 1? Is it at the nominal rate, or after you're granted a pilot, assuming you are?
It's presuming the pilot that we've proposed is
Got it.
is the real estate taxes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Lee? Bill?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, with the low-income housing tax credits, the amount of rent that each of the tenants pays is set by federal law. It's 30% of their adjusted gross income. However, for shelter rent, the rent that they're calculating that they're paying their shelter rent pilot payments on includes not only the rent the tenants are paying, but also all the other rent they receive from the federal government, including the Section 8. So the amount that's available to be going to the taxing jurisdictions is more than just what the residents are paying. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and I think that's partly why we proposed also the real estate taxes in year one, an increase from what the current real estate tax liability is for the property annually. We are not seeking to come in and say, hey, we need you to cut the taxes that we're paying. We're seeking a long-term stability around the real estate taxes.
So from what's been said then, is it fair to say that the rent roll, at least for some period of time, is basically underwritten then by Fannie Mae?
It
On
is.
periodically, perhaps? I don't know how that works.
Well, I'll say that the rent that we receive as the owner is really set by HUD
Right.
in terms of the contract rent that we get from under the Section 8 program.
Right.
Right. So a resident pays a portion. The HUD pays the difference between what they pay and what the contract rent is. So there's pretty good certainty around that. They adjust those every year by what's called the operating cost adjustment factor, which they publish, which is loosely supposed to be based on inflation rates locally. And so, I think OCAF increases over the last year or two have been, a little bit higher than they have historically, or at least over the last 15 years where inflation was very low. So they sort of typically range around, they have historically ranged around 2%. I think over the last couple of years they've been around 4 or 5%. So I think we are projecting just a 2% trending in our operating pro forma that correlates to that shelter rent schedule, but that could certainly go up based on where those OCAFs are.
Just out of interest, historically, how has the performance on this property been in the context of the HUD Section 8 program and so forth? Are there shortfalls? Are there
So there have not been shortfalls. Like, we haven't, as an owner, had to put in equity, I don't think, into the deal. And the property was last financed a little over 15 years ago. And we've been paying down, the principal on, or the current owner has been paying down the principal on the existing financing. And it's at a pretty reasonable interest rate. So there have not been, there's not been the need for deficits at the property.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask the public if they'd like to come forward with any comments they may have. Do we have Zoom tonight or not?
We know no Zoom.
Okay. Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Good evening, Anthony Fasano with Gercio and Gercio, Guercio, 77 Conklin Street, Farmingdale, New York, 11735. Attorneys for the Riverhead Central School District. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing tonight is basically asking questions because I had asked for a pilot agreement, and David, to his credit, has been very cooperative with my office the past week or so, providing me with a litany of answers to some of my questions. But without seeing a pilot agreement, much of the ways what he's saying is going to happen over the next 30 years, the school district would like some assurances. So
When we're ready to disclose the pilot agreement, we'll disclose it. We haven't concluded on the pilot agreement yet.
So again, we'll have questions that I need to ask about certain things. So as of right now, the district, with regard to the number of students that are assigned to that housing project, it costs roughly $1.8 million. At the end of this 30-year project, this 30-year pilot, the most the district, at least per the pilot agreement that I was provided, was $686,000.
Which pilot agreement were you provided? What,
was
the one
provided
that
in
the one the applicant has proposed?
I think there's a confusion with pilot agreement and the proposed pilot itself.
Proposed pilot.
Okay, so you were looking for the proposed pilot, which is on, which,
Proposed pilot agreement.
oh,
That was
the
provided
agreement
with the
itself?
Pilot, yes.
It hasn't been drafted.
I was told last week.
What I believe he was given was the company's projections of what shelter rent pilots would be going forward as compared to current taxes. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
I was just trying to clarify.
Yeah.
So then at the end of that 30-year pilot, it would be $686,000, where right now, the first year, it would be $390,000. So $1.8 million is what the district currently expends with regard to the number of students that are in that project. We would like to see if there were any assurances that we can add to that pilot agreement to make sure that the number of students is at a reasonable amount for over those 30-year period. I'm noted that there's 10% that goes to Wells Fargo. Did I say something wrong, sir?
Carry on.
There's 10% that goes to Wells Fargo, I believe, and that's the same 10% that now goes to the taxing jurisdictions. There's a 17-year term that goes to Fannie Mae, but yet there's a 30-year pilot. We're a little curious as to why we need to do 30 years, why we can't at least cut that number down a little bit. We'd like to know if there's any, as far as analysis goes, as to after the revitalizations, what the property taxes would be on the property, so we can at least comprehend what type of savings are going to the developer. I don't know if that was done yet.
Yes, so there are cost-benefit analysis, and there is one up online, but that's since been amended with minor adjustments. I have a copy for you if you'd like. But so in this instance, the calculation
Tracy.
The assessment is not going to change
Okay.
if the project doesn't take place. So yeah, there's a calculation that runs the current tax revenue out 30 years and compares it to their proposed pilot. If there is no project, it would be your current assessed value. I'm sorry? Or less. Yeah, or less if they do a tax certiorari. Yeah, that's true, but
Is the revised financial statement?
yeah, I have a copy of the cost benefit analysis. But
But, Tracy,
yes,
we don't really need to jump into specifics here. Let the man continue with what other demands he has.
okay.
Well, no demands. I'm just trying to
I
ask
beg your
questions.
pardon?
Just asking questions. So, in order to deviate from the UTEP, I know you need to show special and extraordinary circumstances. Under the application, under that section, it's left blank. And now I received a letter
I'm sorry, I missed that. What did you just say?
under the UTEP. In order to deviate from the 10-year standard pilot, you have to show special and extraordinary circumstances. In the application, there's nothing actually listed there other than just saying we need 30 years. And then I know I was provided a letter from you, and then that says that it was for the improvement of health, safety, and quality of life. So the district's just interested to see, as far as the pilot agreement goes moving forward over the next 30 years, what assurances or promises are going to be to the community members living there that the health, safety, and quality of life is going to continue to be improved for those 30 years.
Comments, questions, Lee?
You know, I'm actually gobsmacked that you're here grandstanding this evening. The proposed pilot is more than what is currently being paid, and there are no additional units being added to the project. And that increase that they're paying in the pilot obviously inures to the benefit of the school. What I'm curious about is the fact that, as you are aware, this is a project that deals with subsidized housing. And I'm curious as to why the Board of Education or the Riverhead Central School District hates subsidized housing, because that's the only reason I could see that you want to grandstand tonight. What I'd like to do is ask you a few questions. What is the school district doing about the 1,400 or so students that live outside the school district and yet are educated by the Riverhead Central School District? That's
So is
based
this
upon
public
a
hearing about the pilot agreement, or is this?
Oh no,
the
you
school district?
you open the door, and I'm gonna walk right through it.
So am I allowed to finish or no?
No,
I thought you had finished.
I thought you had as
I'm
well.
not. Can I finish or?
Carry on.
So in the application, it says that there'll be 5 full-time employees, including a director of safety. Are those 5 full-time employees, is that gonna be written in the pilot, that there's a minimum number of employees that need to be?
Yes.
And will there be 5, including director of safety and security for those 30 years?
It'll be 5 employees, and then a recapture provision is put in all the agreements. Naturally, you can't control economic situations and hold them to 5, so we do like an 85 percentile. But yes, it is a qualifier every year when they do their compliance reports. Certain things have to be met and measured.
And do we have a rough idea when the pilot's gonna be finished, the pilot agreement?
Hopefully
Depends on how
soon.
long this process is going to take, but he wants to be completed by the end of the year.
I know one of the, also one of the things under your UTEP that you like to consider is the use of local contractors. Are there any local contractors being utilized for this project?
We have a local labor policy, and we encourage the use of local contractors.
Is that gonna be required though under the
It,
agreement?
they report every year for that. Is it a requirement? It's requested.
Okay.
They,
Thank you.
No, I'm not finished.
Oh, I don't need to answer your question, sir. Thank you.
Well, but you need to listen
okay.
to them
You-
at a bare minimum. You have 1,400 students who live outside the district, who are educated by the Riverhead Central School District. What steps has the district taken to get rid of the compact that exists between Riverhead and Southampton that is ancient at this point? as far as I can tell, they haven't taken any steps to cancel that compact. There's a Riverside project that's proposed in Riverside for approximately 2,000 units. Where does the school district stand on that project? Where are students going to be educated who live in Riverside? What about the students that were reported by Riverpoint the last time they came before the board, where they told you flat out that they are aware of students that appear at the Riverpoint bus stop who are not students who reside in the Riverpoint apartments? What steps have the school district taken to find out where those students are coming from and whether or not they are being educated as a member of the district or not? 5 years ago, the school district had a $90 million budget. Now it's $190 million. Yet you still needed to increase the school taxes by 2.5% at the last budget. You're receiving $100 million more per year than you did 5 years ago, and yet you come up here when we have a proposal dealing with improving a subsidized housing project to complain.
Well,
How many students could have been educated with the money the school district is wasting by paying salaries for people who have been terminated? My calculations is approximately $750,000 for 2 positions at the school district. How many students could have been educated with the money that the district is wasting? How come the school district doesn't show up here when the IDA has projects that don't involve either occupancy or apartments whatsoever? Our industrial projects, where we take property that was valued at pennies on the dollar, and now because of the IDA, the district is now receiving money that it would not have received for the benefit of the students of Riverhead. I'm talking about projects like Restaurant Depot, like the Incubator, like Island Water Park, or even the aquarium. What I want to know is when the school district is going to get its house in order before it comes back here complaining about a project that good people are looking to do to help improve their quality of life. When the school district wants to get serious about having these discussions, we'll be all ears. But until then, every time someone from the school comes here to grandstand, you're going to get the same questions over and over, at least from me. And nothing else to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee. I think Lee has probably been, reflects a lot of community frustration regarding the school system at present. All I can add is that the IDA does try to develop and support projects that add value to the town and ultimately add development to the town, and in turn enhances the overall tax revenues of the town, particularly in an industrial and commercial sense. In this particular instance, it's a bit confusing for us as a board of this agency to try to comprehend how we're meant to, in fact, restrict occupancy at a particular residential property when in fact such a restriction doesn't exist on any other property in the town, and at the same time allow for a redevelopment of a property like this in a manner which should add ultimately value to everyone in town, including the overall Main Street district, which has been the focus of revitalization for many years right now. So with that, thank you, Lee. Please, next comment.
My name is Claudette Bianco. I live in Bating Hollow. I think Mr. Mendelssohn's questions are maybe correct or well brought up, but I think it's misplaced in this setting. You need to go to a school board meeting and bring those up. And attacking the legal representation for the school district, which is simply here looking out for the taxpayers and the school district, is misplaced. I'm kind of shocked at the combative nature of the way this board has treated that gentleman. He's here making sure that us taxpayers aren't expected to pay much more than we have because the school district needs to function. The number of students that are there and whether they're there legally and all of that, this isn't the setting for that. A school board meeting is appropriate for that.
It is when council stands up.
He wasn't
and wants to-
grandstanding.
And wants to know.
I think we'll just take the comment, Lee.
That's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. I don't believe he was grandstanding. I believe he was up here trying to do the best for the school district and the students and the taxpayers, who, when you give inducements to projects, even though it's a very good project, it's needed. But when you give inducements and they pay pilots, they're paying a portion of the taxes, but they're not paying the full load of the taxes. And who makes up that difference? The taxpayers. So I really resent the treatment that you gave that gentleman. He's up here protecting my tax interest and the school district's budget. Thank you.
Other comments? Any other comments? Comments from the community that would like to be made? No? Well, very well then. I guess it's fair to say that I can, once I get my glasses, I can close this hearing. So any more questions from the board? No. Any more questions from the public or statements from the public? No. And then I guess thank you, and I'll declare this hearing closed at 5:51 p.m. Thank you. That brings us to the next item, which would be a presentation regarding an application from 213 East Main Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You can hear me?
Yes.
My name is Daniel Baker from the firm Greenberg Traurig. I represent the applicants in this matter. We have been before the board back in August and spoke a little bit about the project, if you recall. We are here again in the interim. We've had first off, some good positive news from the town side of the process, which is that all secret findings were accepted and a site plan approval was granted by the town, so the project is really ready to move forward, which is what brings us here now, because we are ready and want to move as quickly as we can. In the interim, there have been some changes, both in the capital markets as well as in the project itself as a result of the town approvals. I am joined by Sean Sally, who has spoken before the board on this matter before. He'll give you a quick update about what has happened, but in essence, we've had to make some changes based upon certain fees that are now part of the project as a result of the town approval. Again, Sean will get into those in detail, but that mixed with the financial climate, the increasing interest rates, ever-increasing costs of projects, and the like, have really added to a project that needs the benefits that the IDA can confer on this type of development. So it is critical and important that they are conferred in order for the project to move forward. With that, we'll talk about that more as we go through the next stage with the board, but for now, Sean will give you an update and tell you more about the approval from the town and what we need going forward.
Thank you, Board. We appreciate you taking the time this evening to entertain our application. As Dan mentioned, the project received site plan approval from the town board this past October. We're very excited about that. It's been a long road. Our development partners are here with us. They've been along, on this ride for many years now. But again, site plan approval, final site plan approval in October. As part of that site plan approval, however, that proceeding concluded with memorializing several public community benefits that us as the applicant would need to include as part of our approval. That includes a roughly a $500,000 park and recreation fee that the town can use to purchase, acquire new open space and/or parkland. Also, the Riverhead Water District has imposed a fee in the amount of roughly $1 million for connection to the system, but also off-site improvements to the water main system within the downtown. So we are going to cover the cost of a new main through our property that will connect to an existing main on East Main Street and an existing water main on Heidi Bear Way. But that water main will be dedicated to the water district through an easement. We'll also be paying for the installation of new water mains on East Main Street and East Avenue. The water mains, as I'm sure you're aware, are roughly 100 years old, and in order to support the existing and any potential development in the future, those mains needed to be upgraded and replaced. So that's something that we will be paying for through our site plan approval. On the sewer district end, we will be paying for the installation of a new sewer dry line that will run beneath our property, that will allow or provide the capacity for the district to accept additional flow in the future, whether it be town square or any additional development that occurs to the west of us. That additional flow can be accommodated through that dry line under our site, ultimately end up at the DeFreeze pump station to our east and then to the sewage treatment plant. We'll be paying for the installation of a new pump for that pump station, and replacing what they call a lamp hole manhole, which is essentially a clean out valve that's also about 80 years old. So that's off our site, but we'll be paying for that restoration and that replacement. Last but not least, on-site parking. So through the years, the makeup of the town board had asked for, while it's not required, but to park as much of our demand on-site, right? We're within the parking district, but we've adjusted our plan to accommodate basically a 1-for-1 parking to unit ratio on our site. So that's by way of a two-story concrete podium that would accommodate about 155 parking stalls at a cost of about $3.4 million to create that massing and that double podium. So we think that's a win-win for the town, right? We're parking our demand, but we're also alleviating pressure on the downtown for additional development and/or restoration and revitalization, right? Those parking stalls can be utilized for those purposes and not be taken up by our project. So again, all of those items have a cost quite significant, and are to be borne by our organization. So we respectfully submit and present our updated application for financial benefits. Thank you.
So one thing I would just make clear about the fees that Sean pointed out, they are not required or wouldn't typically be required or have not been asked of by other projects before this one. So in essence, all of these are something that have been agreed upon as part of the approval process that are either going to directly benefit others than this project, meaning, those along Main Street or downtown, or those in a more general sense. So this is something that the applicants really believe is beyond the scope of what they thought they might be doing when they started the project, and will benefit the town in good fashion, in addition to what they're getting in order to move forward. So with that, we would request that the board accept the application and allow us to proceed with the public hearing and move forward after tonight.
Any questions?
Just one, although it'll be probably for the public hearing as well. Of the 155 parking stalls, are there going to be a portion that are expressly reserved for the use of the residents of the project, or are they going to be open to all?
So the parking stalls will be reserved for use by tenants of the new multifamily building. Yes.
Doug, any questions?
No, I'm fine.
Couple of questions. Just looking at your renderings and the site plan that you submitted, what's the Main Street activation going to look like?
Sure. I think if we want to look to go back to the other one, the first board has. So I think we've sort of explained a little bit of this in our application, but the first floor adjacent to or along the East Main Street frontage is reserved for non-residential use. I think, given the economic climate, the retail market ever changing, we'd like to maintain flexibility. We are, a few years away from completing this project. So, what we do not want to have absolutely is, dark storefronts, right? So we want to make sure that there's flexibility to bring in a retail use in the future. But for the short term, we will be designing that space to accommodate retail, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a work from home pod, or et cetera. But it's something that we need to think through very diligently, again, because we do not want, and we've seen this happen, right, where a space is earmarked for a particular use, very specifically, and that use does not work out. And again, you're left with boarded up window or the lights off. We do not want that. We want boots on the ground, foot traffic. We want a use that is going to complement the other existing retail and commercial uses along East Main Street. So, as we're requesting that there be some flexibility as we work through the program during construction. We see where the market is in 2.5 years. And we do our best to really activate this portion of Main Street. We know that's very important to the town in its revitalization efforts. It's important to us. Again, we'd love to, we're in the business of leasing space, so we'd love to be able to lease this first floor commercial space along East Main Street.
It's about 6,000 square feet, right?
Yes, roughly. And in our site plan, that's split. There's lobby leasing, and then the remainder is non-residential, retail, commercial.
Mm-hmm. And in the back on the riverside, you've got that earmarked for residential amenity. Is that what that is?
We do, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. And I take it that that's not a through street, is it? That's just a fire lane. That where I see the gate across the
Yes.
the opening there.
So it will be a through lane for pedestrians and cyclists, but in terms of vehicular traffic, that is reserved for fire access, and that is actually our vehicular way for our residents to enter the parking podium from the south, from Heidi Bear Way.
So you're going to actually have those. How many spaces are you going to have that out in the back there?
Within the
155 spaces.
155, yes.
So those 155 cars have to access Main Street via that gate.
Oh no! There will be no vehicular.
Oh, none. Okay.
at all.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
They'll actually have to go to the traffic signal at McDermott or
And down.
Okay. Or from the west from Peconic. But pedestrian access, cycling, it'll be open to the public.
Oh. Nothing else, Lee?
Nope.
I have
That-
a question.
Oh, go ahead.
With the uncertainty of the ground floor space, how are you factoring that into your projected pro forma with rents, without rents, vacancies?
Without.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you have nothing else to add, and we have no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. That would bring us to the consideration of the minutes, which I think I would like, which for our last meeting on October 23rd, and everyone's not had a chance to review those, and a couple of board members are missing. So I'd like to table that resolution and
You need to
take it up
vote
at our
on the
next
table?
meeting, the beginning of next month.
You need to vote on a table.
I'll move the table.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence, letter from council, Tracy?
As the board's aware, the agency's received correspondence from Calverton Aviation and Technology Parks Council. That's all.
Oh, okay. The treasurer's report, something we always wait for. Lee?
As of October 31st, 2023, the cash in the checking account was $50,657.50. The balance in the money market account was $45,077.13. Interest for the month was $3.83 at an interest rate of 0.1%. In the project deposit account, the account earned interest of $11.33 for the month, and there was a bank charge of $58. There was an account replenishment in the amount of $8,227.50 to pay for expenses, and the deposit remaining as of October 31st was $108,538.07. Revenues for the month of October included interest earnings of $22.59, professional services billed to CAT of $8,227.50, and $1,800 billed to projects for late compliance reports. And expenses for the month of October totaled $19,451.58.
Okay, thank you. There's a resolution here in our packet, 4523.
There's no physical resolution, it's just a verbal for the treasurer's report.
Oh, we don't- okay.
It's just a one-liner, so I don't waste
all
the
right.
paper.
It was like approving the report. May I have a motion to approve the report?
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Committee reports today. No audit, no governance, and no finance. That brings us to old business. In terms of Resolution 4623, which considers the financial assistance for the Riverhead Housing LP, I think I'd like to table that so that we can digest the comments we received tonight. There's another matter of yours that's going to be addressed in our next meeting of the Economic Development Corporation. And then we have a consideration of Resolution 4723 for ratifying the authorization to approve the proposed 2024 budget. May I have a motion to?
I'll move to ratify the 2024 budget.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Chairman, could you please vote on the consideration to table resolution
Oh, excuse me. May I have a
4623?
motion on tabling the Resolution 46-23?
I'll make the motion to table.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. New business. Consideration of Resolution 48-23, accepting amended application for 213 East Main Street LLC. May I have a motion?
I'll move to accept it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And consideration of Resolution 49-23 for the mortgage modification for Calverton Addiction Treatment Facility. May I have a motion to?
I'll make the motion to.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That would bring us to the end of this meeting of the Riverhead Industrial Development Agency, and I'll adjourn this meeting at 6:08 p.m. Now that brings us to I'd like to call to order.
Chairman, could you also do a vote as well to end the meeting?
Oh, sorry. May I have a motion to end the meeting?
Moved.
Second? All in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. I'm slowing my motions tonight.
Oh, you're fast.
Or too fast. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Riverhead IDA Economic Job Development Corporation public meeting, November 13th, 2023 at 6:09 p.m. Can I ask for an adoption of the proposed agenda?
Make the motion to adopt.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And at this point, I think I'd like to, I note on the agenda that we have scheduled a public hearing, but we will not have that tonight. It was with respect to the Riverhead Charter School, and that at this point in time, while we have done the work to consider a refinancing of the charter school, they are reconsidering whether or not in the current market environment that refinancing makes sense for the organization. And so they're thinking, and that's been postponed, and we'll not have a hearing tonight on that. And that brings us then to correspondence. There doesn't appear to be any today. And then there is consideration of our meeting, our minutes from October 23rd, 2023. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make the motion to accept.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Another treasurer's report. Lee? I think it's probably on the back end of your main one.
Oh, it is.
Hmm?
It is. The balance in the LDC bank account as of October 31st, 2023 was $8,149.48. Activity for the month included a $4,000 fee from the Riverhead Charter School, interest earnings of 54 cents, and a bank charge of $24. The branch manager has been contacted and a refund has been requested.
Thank you. Any further comments on the treasurer's report?
No, sir.
May I have a motion to accept it?
I'll make the motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. There are also no committee reports in this meeting tonight. And that brings us to old business, which is Resolution 2423, consideration of authorizing refinance of bond financing Riverhead Charter School. As I mentioned to you, we haven't had the meeting on that, so that's on hold. And the second item was Resolution 25-23, consideration of authorizing bond financing for Riverhead Housing LP. I would ask for a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have no business tonight, so therefore I'd like a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned. That's it for this evening.
Thank you.